Howdy folks, so in this video we are going to talk about web accessibility. I wanted to start off by kind of giving you examples. So let's say that you have some sort of vision impairment. Maybe you're unable to see well, or you're unable to see at all, and you're trying to navigate a web page. So we use something called a screen reader, which will read to you if you're unable to see what's going on clearly. It helps to give you more context of the web page that you're on. So for this instance, let's pretend that I have a vision impairment, and for that I'm going to use the tab button. So if you use the tab key, it'll switch from all the clickable things and all the different areas on a web page. So maybe you're unable to use a mouse. So I just want to show you why it's important that we think about accessible design when we're creating our websites for our schools and our educational community. So I'm not really showing you the website I am on. This is a real Tri-County site that will need to be fixed up. But this is what someone using a screen reader would experience trying to navigate this site. So say you're a parent trying to find out information about your child's school, or anything like that.
Link.
So I'm
heading level 2, copy heading link, button, copy heading link how to Google videos. Link.
So
Link.
I'm just, every time you hear link, I've hit tab to go to the next section because I can't navigate with a mouse in this scenario.
Link.
And it's just link.
Heading level 2, link. Heading level 2, link.
So you can see how someone who requires a screen reader and maybe has to navigate using the tab key will become extremely frustrated by trying to figure out anything on this website. They have no idea what any of it is. It's just link. So we want to look today about how to design a website so that it's accessible to everyone that wants to use it. This video is coming out because of the joint accessibility plan put out by the province of Nova Scotia. In 2017, they passed the Accessibility Act, and what that is to create all of our institutions, all our public institutions to become accessible. And that just means that everyone is able to access information or to go somewhere and experience locations or web pages or anything like that the same as anyone else, right? So it's about making it so everyone can participate in any sort of public good. So just like our schools need to be accessible to anyone that wants to come to them, all of our websites need to be accessible as well. So I'm going to talk today about how to make our Google sites more accessible. There's only a few things you can really do within Google sites. They're a little more limited, and they're generally pretty accessible, but there are some things we should be considering and should be doing with our school sites to make sure that they are accessible. All of this comes from a document called WCAG, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And it goes through and tells you everything. So everything you need, like text spacing. So it tells you like, okay, there's 3 levels. There's A, AA, and AAA. A is very basic. Everyone should have that, where AAA are reserved for like the most important websites and like the highest level of accessibility. So this is a AA. So line height, at least 1.5 times the font size, spacing. So it's just talking about giving enough space between text for people to read it. Non-text contrast. The visual presentation of the following have contrast ratios of at least 3:1 against adjacent colors. We'll talk about color contrast. That's quite important as well. So let's hop into a website that I developed for something else, Fake Schools Consolidated. This is my little fake school website. So from the province of Nova Scotia, almost 40%, I think it's 37.9% of Nova Scotians over 15 years old live with a disability. So a huge portion of our population needs accessibility in some degree. And the thing to really remember is that when we're designing accessible websites, it's actually just making a better user experience for everybody. So the more accessible it is, the better experience it is. And I'm sure we've all been on those websites that are really hard to navigate. It's really annoying. Maybe you're trying to unlist from a subscription and they keep throwing you around everywhere, purposely trying to confuse you. So the idea is we do as much as we can to limit any sort of confusion so that anyone can experience the website. Talking about screen reader from our initial demonstration, I want to talk about something called alt text. So alt text is something that you put with a photograph on your website, It allows someone with a visual impairment to know what images are located on the page, and it describes them to the user. So alt text is really easy to do within Google Sites. If I just click on my image here, this is my FSC Hogman mascot. You can see here, if we go to these three dots, more editing options, alt text is right there. So if we click on it, we have two options. We can do a description. So we could give a description, or we can say this is a decorative image. So it's not that you're expected to go through and give an alt text to every image on your Google site, because some of them aren't important. Some of them are there just for decorative purposes. It's only an image that is important that someone knows about. So if the rest of your site doesn't make any sense because that image is being omitted, then you need to give that image an alt text. So maybe it's like a graph or a figure, then you would describe that so that the screen reader can then describe that to the person on the website. Where this technically is just decorative, it's not that important, but I'm going to add the Hogman mascot because there's also a link. I just linked it to a random page. So on that other website I was on, all the images were links, but there was no alt text describing where those links went. So it was just link, 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 link. So you need this alt text to let someone know what's going on. If we go to another page, so here this image of the school is not important. So we would go to alt text and we'd say this is a decorative image. That way the screen reader knows to skip over it because it's not important that the user knows about it. If you don't hit this is a decorative image, the screen reader can be like, image there. Like it'll just tell them there's an image, but it won't tell them what the image is. So this just skips that. So either describe the image to the person with alt text or click this is decorative and then it will skip over that image. All right, so let's see what this kind of looks like on our website. So here I am. I have my screen reader that came with the computer. I'm going to use tab.
Link. Home. Link. FSC SAC. Link. FSC Info. Link. Our mission. Link. FSC FAQs.
So you can see how I'm just using tab to switch between each thing and it's describing each for me. So that's how this kind of screen reader works. Now generally if someone has been using a screen reader, I've seen videos, they go so fast and I'm like, I have no idea what it's saying, but their screen reader is speaking to them at like 50 times that speed and they're just ripping through websites. But once you're used to it, it's fine. I am not used to it.
Link. This is an image of the Ultimate Hogman mascot. It is also a link to the SAC page.
So there we go. There's my alt text explaining what this image is if I was not able to see it. And it also described what the link was. So that's alt text. The next one is we're going to talk about contrasting colors. There are lots of resources out there to let you know about contrast checkers. So the higher the number here, we want the bigger the contrast as possible. All right, we want two colors that are very different from each other. So it's easy for maybe someone has color blindness. They're able to tell the difference between the background and the foreground. So something like 8.59 to 1 is really good. So the idea of the contrast is just if we're going to have a dark background, we need to have very light text. So we have this white on dark blue. So you can still see everything quite easily. Because if we have something like this, this is an example of something that's awful. A light gray on a white is very hard for anyone to read. If you have some sort of visual impairment, this is going to be extremely difficult. So you want to make sure that you have high contrast values. So I just sampled this website and I did the white versus the blue. So it gives us a contrast ratio of 5.79 to 1. So it does pass the AA standards of WCAG, but it does fail the AAA. So that's that idea where AAA has the highest level of accessibility in mind. So generally this is good enough for most cases, but it could be a little bit better in order to pass the WCAG AAA. It is good if we have large text, which I do have here, so it passes on both the AA, AAA. If we go down here and we can see how bad this one is. So the background is white and the color picker is it's a 1.32 to 1. So it's a fail across the board. And obviously you can see by looking at it, it's very hard to see. When in doubt, black on white is one of the best. So we have a better color here. Now the other thing that's important is the size. So with WCAG, it says that it has to be at least 12 font size. And I mean, especially no smaller than 9, but 12 or up is better. And a larger text is considered 18 or 14 and bolded. So this is 16, so it's a good size. It's not going to be hard for most people to read. And then some people do have screen magnifiers that they can use if something's too small. It's another accessible tool that people use. But make sure your font size is a good size. Another important thing when we're writing is don't have overly complicated language. There's no use of it. You don't need to get your thesaurus out and have very labyrinthian, convoluted text. And yes, I got a thesaurus out for labyrinthian. But the idea is you're delivering information to people. You want that to be as simple and concise as possible. So try not to overcomplicate it and sound flowery and flourishy. Just give straightforward information. Next up, about font. Let's go back to the preview of the website. There is a link in here. And I don't know if anyone can see it. It's important that when we have a link, we have multiple ways to distinguish that it is a link. So it's not good enough that it's only done by color. I know usually like you'll see links are blue, like in a hyperlink document, but generally they're also underlined. And that's important because it gives two cues to people that this is a link that you can click on. So say we have a version of color blindness that I'm unable to tell apart these two colors. There's a link in here, but because I have not identified it in the right way, I can't find where it is. So it's actually this mascot word that I click on and it takes me to a mascot store. So it's important that even this is a link, we have to distinguish that it's a link more than one way. And generally how we do that is by color and underlining. And that generally happens automatically. However, not all the time. So there we go. We have our link that we can see is now a link. So just make sure your links are distinguished more than one way. All that being said, we want to make sure the layout, so back to the navigation thing. So say someone has a difficulty using a mouse or a trackpad, and it's a good practice. Try this at home. Navigate, try to buy something on Amazon next time you're shopping, but only using the tab key and the enter key, like only using your keyboard. And you can see how frustrating it can be. So try to make your layouts of your websites accessible and simple and flow straight forward. So lastly, if you're going through here and you get stuck and you just want a quick reminder of how you can make your Google site more accessible, under help, you can look up accessible and it kind of gives you a run through. So like include alt text. So it tells you use alternative text for logos, drawings, and other graphics. Without alt text, screen reader just hears image. Talking about high contrast colors, using informative link text. Screen readers can scan for links, so informative link text is helpful. It's best to use the title of the page in the link text. So if we go back here, like if I just write link, it's just going to read that as link. This it read as mascot, but what we would say is like mascot store, and then it would say mascot store link. So when you're linking something, make sure you're describing it and what you're linking. So don't just say my link, say like my web page, and then that link goes to your web page. Text size and alignment, make sure that it's spread out enough and large enough. Don't rely on visual formatting alone to communicate meaning. So like a screen reader might not notice that. It might say this is bolded. So like you got to make sure that you're explaining that this part is important. So anyway, there's a lot of good stuff here, and the idea is you're just making it easier for people to access the information on your sites. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.